I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. Today is Tuesday, October 20th. That's right, Tuesday, October 20th. 11 more days in this month, 14 days till election. We got one more debate to go, which promises to be an ultra shit show. Because that's 2020 for you. It's basically just a gigantic poop mess that we have to fix. But today's show, kind of scaling it back, talking about politics for the day. We will talk a little bit in my intro, but we have two amazing guests for today. We're going to be talking about music and how to become a better leader and guide your business through success. So two great segments built around a little bit about what's going on in the world. Now, before we get to today's guests, let's have a conversation, because there's a lot of things going on and people ignoring data. People glued on the fact that they just think that they just don't need to follow common sense. The need, like I mentioned yesterday, that Dr. Fauci, who is a doctor, a renowned doctor, who knows what he's talking about, has been discredited by a bunch of people who support the president because he says, without any factual data, that Fauci just doesn't agree with him and he's wrong and he's right. It's a problem. Tomorrow's guest is going to help us solve it because we're bringing in pop culture expert Cooper Lawrence to talk to us. So that will be an episode, but it got me thinking. We live in a world and a time in the last 4 years where fake news and coronavirus and social justice. I mean, I never thought I would live in a place and a time where a man who has a bad spray tan, stood up, can't dance, has zero rhythm, lies. I mean, we heard just today, Melania Trump still has COVID. So do you want me to believe Chris Christie, who caught COVID and is now preaching wearing a mask? The president caught COVID and miraculously 3 days later he was fine. But his wife, his child, others, still sick. I'm struggling, but everybody just wants to put their political opinion on, and every Trump supporter will threaten violence and tell you you're wrong. They don't bring data around. They quote Sean Hannity or Tucker Bowtie Carlson or Laura I'm a Racist Ingram. That's who they do, because you see them on social media. They're the ones telling you it's fake news. Fake news. Fake. It's fake. Every journalist is fake news. You're right, folks. Journalists do have agendas, especially at the national level. If you don't want to see a journalist with a national agenda, watch your regular TV at home, your local NBC, ABC, CBS affiliate. They are local journalists. They won't put spin on it. They're not swayed in any way. But at the national level, that's how it's always been. So please, Trump supporters, sit down, shut up. Because this isn't new. National media has always swayed depending on the network you're listening to, whether it be ABC, NBC, or CBS, which I grew up on. And now you add in CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, Fox News, Cheddar, Newsmax. I'm not recognizing the smaller ones that the president talks about because I can't find them on my dial, so they don't exist. It's one of those things that people need to stop. Oh, it's the first time. No. The difference is the president is polarizing. He says things because he wants to get attention. And it works. His fans don't think as far as they could throw a stone, so they just therefore spew on social media, oh, the president is a victim. He's a victim. The people are... No, because he doesn't tell the truth from 1 minute to the next. All you guys have is you want to preach about Hunter Biden on something that you don't have. But because you don't have that evidence, but the evidence that the man said he hated the military, you look the other way. So Hunter Biden's your target, not the president who hates our military, who has had ships moved because their last name was McCain, who disrespected a POW and a decorated senator, somebody who actually did something with his life and has never once walked around caring about ratings. In fact, John McCain stood at a town hall meeting and silenced a man who was berating and talking negatively of a Barack Obama, who became our president for 2 terms. You know, the same president that has been accused of killing SEAL Team 6 and keeping Osama bin Laden alive. We've talked about this on our show. It still blows my mind that I wake up and I see people going, I'm still going to vote for him. It's Jesus Christ and Trump. Now, I'm pretty sure that Trump does the polar opposite, that Jesus Christ and God would be like, dude, you're doing a great job. Look at the man's track record. He's a spinster. He's a fraudster. The people of New York hate him. Now, the people may disagree with me are the same people who block me on Twitter. Do I care? Nope, because I'm still here. You can't silence what you can't silence. And I won't be quiet because it's my opinion and you don't have to listen to me. You can, like everything else in life, change the dial. But I won't be quiet. I'm going to encourage you to vote on November 3rd. Vote out that man. That man and his cronies need to be silenced and wave goodbye to. And there's plenty of more evidence to come out. Evidence just dropped this past Friday when Brittany Kaiser dropped it. And there'll be more. Mark my words, there will be more evidence dropped. How much longer can people who support ignore data and physical evidence? Don't put it to the press, put it to the people. The press will not elect our president because everybody thought it was going to be Hillary. But we all knew it wouldn't be because we quietly said, why would we support her? We don't trust her. She was scapegoated as a bad person. And this guy was scapegoated as the greatest thing because he was different. Clean the swamp. No, he didn't. He has his friends. Look at Matt Gaetz. Look at his cronies. Look at all the people who changed in just 4 years that aren't there. Decorated generals, business people. This isn't something new, folks. So wise up. Crack a book and see what's going on in your world. Or tune in and watch our show Monday through Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And I'll give you the news of the day, drop amazing guests on you, and I'll come back and hit your dial every day that I can. So, folks, we got a great show for you today. We got Rob Hatch here, and the amazing Alain Merville will be here. And we're going to be talking about some great subjects. Rob's going to be talking about leadership and how you can build your business. And Alan is going to be talking about his music play, which is helping students learn music remotely. It was created before COVID, and it is rock starring it right now because of COVID. So we're not going to lose the arts. I know it's the thing that gets cut, but when you make it remote, and Alan's going to tell us why remote learning is actually better for the arts, and they have amazing folks on that. So during the commercial break, go check out Music Play. It is worth it. So that's what we have for you. That's the beginning of the show for you. So when we come back from the break, we're going to have the first guest for the day. Can't wait to share our first guest of the day with you. So stay tuned, and we'll see you after the break. And welcome back to The Point. We got a good one for you. And I know, you've heard that one before. I actually say it every day. And you're right, because we have amazing guests. Our team does an amazing job, and I think our guests are incredible. So that's why every guest is amazing to me. We have a good one today. Rob Hatch is joining us today, and he is a business coach and a leadership coach, a leader and business coach. There we go. It all sounds the same to me, and it rolls off the tongue the same way. If you're a business coach, you should be a good leader. And leaders are few and far between. We're seeing that in 2020 as more people have decided to work from home. So let's bring Rob into this conversation here, and let me make sure I know what I'm doing here as I'm pushing buttons on our screen. There we go. Rob, welcome to The Point. How you doing today, bud?
I'm great, Eric. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So a business coach and leadership coach, kind of two things in one. I don't know why I'm struggling putting them together in a sentence, but I'll blame my mother.
It's all good.
But let's break that down. 2020 has been a challenge for... 2020 has been great for a lot of people. Remote, for myself, remote has been part of my life coming from tech. This is the way we do everything anyways. It's a remote living or living out of, usually I would work out of a hotel room or an airport is my normal when I wasn't home with my kids. I think the people struggling the most are the bosses, I'm not going to call them leaders, that micromanage their people and needed them in the office. And they're the ones I think are struggling, right? They're the ones that are like, I can't deal with this, the people aren't in the office. And you're a coach. How are you coaching businesses? Are you dealing with any of these bosses that are like, oh my God, I need to see my people. I need them in front of me, instead of what are they doing and they're working and trusting work's getting done. Are you dealing with any of those folks right now?
Well, most of my clients aren't those type of leaders, to be quite frank.
Okay.
The ones that I'm dealing with right now are the folks who are overwhelmed, and they've got a lot of information coming at them. There's a ton of distractions that they're dealing with.
Okay.
But those type of leaders, I think one of the things that this has revealed is there's going to be a massive shift or a need to shift to results based management and leadership.
Yeah.
Results based, and that starts with results based hiring. That leads to results based management. To if we are able to look ahead and define what success is, a year out, 6 months out, whatever that time frame is, and manage to those expectations rather than manage to the activity becomes really clear. And that to me is whether you're a solo entrepreneur or you are working for a company. If you can define for yourself what success is, if you know what it is you're trying to accomplish, you can then much more easily work backwards to identify what do I need to do right now to achieve that end result. What should I be working on? And it becomes so much clearer whether you're the person trying to accomplish the goal or manage to the goal.
Yeah. One thing that jumped out at me, Rob, about your background when we were doing some research before we do with all the guests before they come on, is before you got into the coaching business, you had a background in early childhood development. And you and I have a lot in common. You are a father of 4 wonderful children, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we have we're ready.
Mine are wonderful. I can't, I don't know about yours.
Mine are wonderful too. We love at least 2 of them. Sorry, the other 2 don't live in the house. They're on their own. So we're like, hey, we love you too, but we don't see you every day. The younger 2 are here. Hey, we love our kids. We just got to give them a hard time. But I did love in your notes that it comes out wonderful children. I was like, well, I guess we all judge our children as wonderful. Some of us, unless they're committing acts of things that we don't want them to do. But, with the lessons that you've learned with talking about childhood development and everything is so different now, what can we do in our personal lives that you've learned from there? I mean, obviously attention span is something that we're doing. Information overload. I know these are kind of skipping around your talking points, but it's something that our kids are dealing with every day. And I think, they have what I consider a nightmare. If you would have told me in February that I would be living in a household with 2 people who spend close to 8 hours straight on Zoom calls, I would have, number one, told you if his name's Eric Mitchell, he quits and will not be doing those because I hate Zoom calls. I do 3 a week that are standing and I try to get out of every one of them. And I don't care if they're watching right now. By the way, I try to get out of every Skype call and Zoom call. If it's anything that's a meeting. But information overload, like what can we take away? What are you doing to kind of help your clients? There's so much information because now you jump on a Zoom call and it's everything, right? It's not a flight, a delayed meeting. You're in a Zoom call. What has your background working with children and now as a coach, what is that, what are you teaching people to kind of put that fine line together? Because I'm sure there is some sort of line with all this information that we have coming on and coming at us.
Absolutely. Well, we'll start with just the overload right now. I mean, even before COVID hit, we subjected ourselves to so much information, so many notifications. We allow every notification to pop up on our screen, on our computer, on our phone, and we react to it. I mean, if you ever go out and you say to yourself, I'm going to turn my phone off, put it in my pocket, but the guy next to you, his phone goes off, you watch everyone in the restaurant reaches for their phone as though it's theirs. It's like, it's crazy. We do this first thing in the morning. We wake up in the morning, we might turn off our alarm, but the next thing we do is we grab our phone, we start scrolling through, and every time we do that, every time we open ourselves up to that, we are subjecting ourselves to somebody else's agenda. That is not how we decided we wanted the day, but we are in that moment choosing to allow someone else's needs to come before ours. That's not how I want to start my day. And this is something I talk about with my kids too. How do you want to enter the day? How do you want to spend time? And there's something a little different because they have grown up with this and we didn't. But in general, we can and should start to think about reclaiming some of that time and attention back, because we give it over so often to all of these notifications. And we need email. These platforms are great. Social media platforms are great ways to stay connected and promote your business. But there's a difference between going in because someone told you should, interrupted whatever you're working on, you reach for it, you open it up, now you're scrolling around trying to figure out what it was, and then you see something else, and next thing you know, you're down this rabbit hole, versus going in there intentionally. I'm going to check my email now because now's the time that I've decided, I can check my email. I'm ready to do that. But we subject ourselves to all of that interruption all the time, and it's a million tiny decisions, and it distracts us. It pulls us away from the work that we really want to be doing, the time that you want to spend with your kids.
Yeah, I like that. You also talk about another thing that I really like, and you call it information overload.
Yes.
Not, wait a minute, we just talked about that.
Decision
Same
fatigue.
sentence scratcher, decision fatigue. You write about that quite often. I love that. It's something that, being in the military, we have a different name for it, but decision fatigue, it's amazing. Can you explain what that is, so in layman's terms, because I think everybody has a but it was so compelling when I was like, decision fatigue. I know so many people who have that. It's amazing how when you wrote it, I was like, oh, triggering. Like, totally know people in my own house who have decision fatigue. Can you explain that to everybody at home, exactly what it is and how you could get, and minimize it?
Well, the basic idea is that for every decision we make, our ability to make subsequent decisions is degraded. So when we're making a million tiny decisions and then we're faced with a major decision, our brains have been worn down by all those tiny decisions, and it's harder for us to focus our energy and attention on the bigger decision and make good decisions in the moment. So the idea is to deal with decision fatigue. I mean, and you can just imagine, we were talking about the idea of, you're wake up in the morning and you're subjecting yourself to a million tiny decisions the minute you open the phone. Every email line, every subject line is, do I answer this? Do I not answer this? And you're looking at 20, 30, 40 before you even get out of bed. Then it's, what do I wear? What do I eat? All these little decisions add up and fatigue us. So the answer for me is to decide ahead of time. And one of the things that I work on helping people do is to decide ahead of time, one, how I want my day to look, and two, eliminating or reducing those distractions, setting some rules, like I don't check my phone or my email until about 10 o'clock in the morning. My morning, that's not how I want to spend my morning, checking social media or email. And then I have a 2-hour block of time where I have already decided 3 of the most important things that I want to work on. And everything's ready for me. I have laid everything out. I know exactly what I'm going to do. It's focused. Again, no checking email, no notifications. That's the easiest way, is to stop notifications. We behave as though we're, on call as an ER doc, and we're not. We can go a couple of hours. And the people waiting for us can as well.
I love that you said that about so many people. I turned off notifications. It was funny, we were offline, and I know one of the folks that you work with is Chris Brogan. And I believe it was Brogan talked about turning off notifications. It was either him or Guy Kawasaki, 2 legends of the game.
Right.
But you don't need to have those on. And I know people love having it. And I've seen it with my friends as they've come up and their careers are taking off. And I'm like, why is your Twitter going off like that? And they're like, oh, I get notified every time someone tweets. I'm like, wow, I can't do that. It's the first thing I turn off. I don't need to know when somebody Facebooks tweets me, IGs me, LinkedIn's me, whatever people need to do. They don't. I have 0 notifications. I'm even pleasantly surprised when I get even Slack, which I love, which is something I check probably more frequently than anything. I don't even have notifications for that. I just end up going, and I know I need to look in it, but it's, it's kind of like what you're talking about. Now, you do talk about one thing that I really like. You write about talk about feeling more confident when we take action. And I like that because I think it's very true. I know when I have my plan, you talked about writing a plan out and having a plan for your day. You personally not starting looking at social till 10 a.m. That's a great goal, by the way. I'm going to challenge myself to that. But having a plan of action, something, again, I guess it's a military thing. Totally love where you're going with that. Now, What is the key to that? More confidence creates action. You feel better, but you get your confidence because you actually have an action plan together, and you go skipping out of the office instead of like some of us who, if we don't have that action plan, if I don't have a plan for the day, it's a mess with me trying to figure out where I'm going.
Yes.
What are the keys to your success with this idea that you're sharing with everyone?
I'm going to go back to just one, look out far enough and identify the results that you want, right? And then you work backwards from there. Chris and I have said for years, your day is your week, is your month, is your year. So you take the year and you work backwards so that you can identify, what do I need to be doing today that will get me there? The cool thing about it, and where the confidence comes from, is we get so overwhelmed with all the things we think we need to be doing. But if you have a plan, and on that plan is one simple act today, let's just say, if you were training for a marathon and today's goal maybe a rest day, for crying out loud, because that's important, right? But also, so let's say today's goal is just to run for 5 miles, really slow pace. It's kind of a recovery day. If you do that 5 miles, you shouldn't feel bad about not running 10, because that's the plan to get you to the 26.2. You shouldn't feel bad that you're not able to run 26.2. You shouldn't feel bad that you're not at a 10-minute mile yet, or a 9-minute mile. That will come because you've done the work that is on the plan. So there's something relaxing and freeing to be able to say, I've done enough today. I don't need to cram every second in or do tomorrow's work today. That's not going to help me get there any faster. In fact, it could, in the case of working on training for a marathon, it could undo a lot of things because you overtrain. Right. So sticking to that plan gives you so much confidence, and it makes the actions that you have to take easier as well. Yeah. And the next key for me in taking those actions with confidence, I also know that the biggest gap for me is the bed to getting outside when I'm training for something like that. Or, if I have another goal in my business where I have to make 10 phone calls today, I don't write on my plan, make 10 phone calls. I'm going to put success in my way, is a phrase that I use often, by having the names, the phone numbers, and a little note. If I need to get out the door, I want to have everything ready. So I look at the thing that's going to kind of trip me up and make sure everything is packed, ready to go, all the gears there, it's all defined and ready. It serves me in the moment. So I don't even have to think about it. I know exactly who I'm calling. I've set the time, the numbers are there, the names are there, the notes are there. Let's go.
I love that you bring that up, because it's funny, and it kind of leads to a question before we go. Do you think people become more organized in 2020? I mean, you have a lot more time on your hands because you're not commuting to an office. You're not, for the most part, people aren't traveling. I kind of chuckle because we were talking about Chris Brogan. I see his daily streaming show that he does on social. Mm-hmm. I see the great Brian Fanzo, doing all of his remote shows and everything, and he's amazing. But I mean, a lot of people have adapted and overcome, which I love. That's a good military term. Yep. There. Do you think people are becoming more organized with their businesses and going, I have a better plan? I know for me, humble brag about Life Lit Media, I feel that we've become more organized because I had more time when the pandemic first hit, that I kind of went, well, we're kind of disorganized, because I was, for the first time, was finding myself going, okay, I'm in my office. I'm not traveling. Yeah. Okay, so how do I occupy my time? And you tell me. So here's my question. Do you find people are finally following this method of working smarter, not harder? That belief of, I need to put 8 hours in. I'm sorry, my protocol is I don't have to do that. If I get my job done in 4 hours, I put my head in my pillow really good at night knowing I did everything I need to do because I task out my week. And I've made my week for me, where Mondays, I know they're very big getting a lot of things done. I work in media. Where Fridays are kind of like, they're my day. If I need to do appointments, I don't have any work to do because I've finished it all before. And as I get to the end of the week, for me personally, my schedule is basically dead, where I fill it up in the middle because that's when I know I'm the hungriest to work. I know I love the weekend. I'm the opposite of Gary Vee. I love weekends. I don't like working on weekends. I like relaxing and spending time with my family. You and I have We have kids. It's fun to be around them. Work will still be here when they go off to college. Let's just face it. It'll still be here. Still be working.
Right.
So what are you telling, I mean, do you think people have adapted and got better about scheduling and figuring out their time?
I think what it's forced them to do, Eric, is to reevaluate what's important. And when faced with that time, they're starting to see the value of reflective practice. Honestly, what I like to do is at the end of my day, take some time to say, what went well, what didn't go well, what do I need to do, and I use that time also to set up for the next day. So when we give ourselves time, or those rest days, as I was talking about, if you're training for a marathon, if you're not doing a rest day, you're actually doing something very wrong. So we need this downtime. And I think that the situation has shown us the value of it. And yeah, I think the result is people are reassessing what's important, starting to organize themselves, and whether it's their life, their house, whatever, but also realign themselves to their values. And that to me is really powerful. That is what in many ways this writing this book is about, helping people to find that space between reacting to every single notification and subjecting yourself to all of this information, and saying, what do I want to do? What do I want my morning to look like? What do I want my day to look like? What do I want my weekend to look like? And decide what that will be like. It's really, I'm excited for what seems to be happening. I hope we don't go back to that, the bustle, I think, and the hustle that got promoted for so long. There was sort of this, hustle culture that I think was not exactly, working hard is one thing, but, every second of every day at the expense of your family, not for me.
I agree with you. I used to think flying was cool. I always kind of laugh when people are like, look at my status. And I don't know, I became kind of proud when I started losing my status. And I thought 2020 would be the year I would lose it, but unfortunately they kept our statuses around for 2 years now to encourage us to fly. Gotta love the airline's humor. Good old Delta's
Right.
like, we love you. You're high up with us. We don't want you to get rid of it. And I have enjoyed that, but you're right. The one thing I have enjoyed, and I keep telling people, is I think I'm closer to the 2 kids that still live in our house out of the 4. I think I'm closer to them than I am with anyone else. I mean, just it's amazing to see them grow. I know at when COVID first hit, it was hard because it's an unknown. I mean, for the most of us, we went to high school. We remember, I mean, my daughter started her junior year, finished her sophomore. I mean, it's difficult. I think it's something we all have to do, but I always laugh because I think of Tim Ferriss's book, and I remember 2 years ago, I stood on a stage and I told people, I said, this is one of my favorite books. I love the 4-hour work week because I believe you should work harder, not, work smarter, not harder. I think that's the way that you're supposed to say that. I just don't like working all day long. I just don't like sitting in my chair, staring at my computer screen, staring at my phone, watching, listening to podcasts. No. I want to be off doing something, seeing people. And I think that's where we're really headed here. So before you go, real quick, talk about your company that you have with Mr. Brogren, what you guys do. Give yourself, shamelessly plug. This is the shameless plugging part of the show. So shamelessly plug away, Mr. Rob.
Thank you. Chris Brogren and I have a company called Owner Media. And you can find us at owner.media, where we work primarily with small companies, small businesses, developing skills and strategies. We do webinars, monthly webinars, a couple a month actually, and we have courses for small businesses and entrepreneurs trying to figure out how to have a stronger digital presence and some personal leadership issues as well. How do I manage everything that's coming at me. So we're a pretty good team. But owner.media is where you can learn about that, and you can always find me at robhatch.com as well, and that's my site for my coaching and consulting. So
awesome. It's been so insightful to have you on here, Rob. There's a lot when it comes to coaching and leadership, and I know a lot of folks, I love talking about leadership, and I think so many businesses need to have someone like you in their life to be like, this is what I need to help focus. Because when I went on your website, I love the questions that you guys have as you scroll down on the website. It's kind of, what do you need help with? Like, some people need help being organized because it's hard. You can be a leader. And I remember working in the Silicon Valley, that was the one thing I remember working with founders of companies, is they struggled so much as they grew because they didn't want to give up, because they created the baby, right? It's like, this is mine.
Right. It's hard to let go.
It was funny watching them, and here they are. They came up as like VPs at like Salesforce, which you talk about a guy who had to start giving up things. Mark Benioff, amazing entrepreneur, as creator of Salesforce, but he had to do the same thing. So I think it's funny watching people do that. But I think a lot of people are struggling with that as they get that, and I know a lot of leaders are struggling with people being remote. I think that's it's an issue because they can't see, they can't control it, and I think they're catching themselves going, okay, well, you can get the work done. You don't need. I think the first part of COVID was based around that, like, I need to get 8 hours in, and I think now, and we're on the other side of it, on the long term of COVID, I think people are more, that's right, you can do 4 hours of work that's not 8. Because, I mean, which is scary, Rob, between you and I, how many hours do you think people wasted? If we get things done in 4 hours and you were spending 8 hours at work, that means 4 hours you were goofing off.
And part of that is honestly managing those interruptions too, right? Allowing all that information, whether it's someone walking in or, checking an email, and sometimes it's just pure wasted time where they're, we're just scrolling. So yeah, I think understanding how this has changed the workplace and shifting to results, but that is a transition. It's hard. It's not always easy to make that shift, but now is the best time to do that. We still have a little kind of fluff in the schedule, right? We're not back in this sort of crazy, every second of every day working. So now is a really good time to try and figure out how to do that better and make better decisions as a leader and help help lead your teams forward.
I totally agree with you. So I'm getting my producer in my ear now. She's like, can you shut up? Because I'm just going long on every interview. I'm good at that. It's like 15 minutes turns into 30. That's how we roll around here. And our guests love it. We get a lot of good information. So Rob, I want to thank you for joining us today. Folks, you know how to get a hold of Rob. Again, as a reminder, if you're watching on C-Suite TV or on YouTube and even on Facebook, scroll down. You'll see all the ways to connect. You can learn about Rob and Chris Brogan's company, and you can learn how to connect with Rob and see everything on there. Give them a follow on social. You guys know the rules. If you're watching our guests, follow them on social. Everybody deserves a good follow. You actually learn something, and you don't need to follow that orange guy who tweets crazy in caps. So it's okay. You can unfollow him and follow Rob. It's a good trade-off, I tell you.
It's a great trade-off.
It's a great trade-off. Trust me, it's a much better trade-off. You'll be like, wow, I learned something today, and I'm not angry. So it's what happens. So Rob, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody else will be right back after these messages. Welcome back to The Point. I'm Eric Mitchell. We have a good guest for you right now. You know my love of music. We talk about it all the time. Every kind of music under the sun. As most of you know, I produced an EDM film a few years ago. I don't want to age myself, but I will tell you about 5 years ago we produced it. It came out. COVID has kind of slowed down putting out the next two, but love music, any kind of music. You can catch me. It's probably the thing you can always catch me before air, after air. I love having music in my ear. So we have a great guest today, and our guest today is Alain Merville. And Alain, let's get Alain here. So we might as well have Alain here, and welcome to the show. Alain, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Eric?
I am excited to have you here. I love talking about music. Now, you have an online platform. You created an online platform for music, I guess, music education long before, students were jumping online, long before coronavirus, right? You were doing what you developed happened, I guess, purpose of my question here to lead off, and I'm stuttering and stumbling through it because all of a sudden my brain just went scattered on me. You've been running online education classes for music long before coronavirus, and now obviously everything's being taught online. Tell us a little bit about your platform and how you started it. Obviously started before Corona, but let's talk a little bit about your platform because I think it's amazing, but I want to kind of bring folks up to speed. And I always find it easier for the guest to explain their platform than me, who will just read it off of a cue card.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. Excited here, so I'm looking forward to this conversation. So the platform is called Music Play. Music Play is a music e-learning platform for music enthusiasts as well as music students, and really it's a way for music enthusiasts and music students to learn from their favorite celebrity musicians through our masterclass tier. And so basically, what it allows you to do is that instructor or that favorite celebrity musicians for how they became successful. So who their inspirations are, how they practice, how they warm up, how they develop their technique, how they solo, whatever it is that they do, it's in that course. Along with the video segmented courses, each student receives a digital and downloadable course book, which has chapter summaries, music notation, and practice guides to make sure that you as a student are learning the practical steps to be able to actually apply what it is that you're learning. So that's through the masterclass tier. We also have an academy tier, which is different because the masterclass tier, the focus is really that instructor, right? You're jumping into that course because you want to learn how Elise songwrites, and you want to learn how she does what she does. Whereas the academy course, the purpose is for the instrument. So those courses are taught by by elite college level instructors who teach you the standard way to learn that instrument. So the way that you're supposed to tune a guitar, the proper form, the fundamentals of the instrument. So that's the core aspect of the academy is to learn the instrument proper and standard way. And then we also have a private lesson feature, which allows all of our students, all of our users to book a private online session with an instructor. And it's really like an Uber-esque rather type of experience where you get to choose an instructor on the ratings based on their different skill sets. If a blues vocalist, if it's a music producer who focuses on solely hip hop, you get to see information about that instructor before you book a lesson, and you also get to create your own roadmap to success. So if you're, going into a piano private lesson, as opposed to just signing up for a piano lesson, you're signing up and your objective is, I want to improve my soloing, I improve my jazz soloing. So the objective and the purpose behind that is really customized learning. So those are the major three pillars of the platform. And then all of the users get to create their own profiles. They get to message one another. They get to post images, post videos, take courses as a group. So there's a really community like add to the platform as well.
I like
So those are the good aspects of it.
That's great. So, Alan, let me ask you this. With COVID and people taking classes online, and I noticed one thing about your platform. It almost seems that taking these classes virtually is better than taking them in person. Obviously you have pretty high level folks that are instructors, talented artists. You wouldn't want to take music lessons from me because it would be really bad. Like, trust me, I'm not your musical instructor. But why do you think learning on computers seems to be, when it comes to music, is so much easier than in the classroom? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, you you made the point earlier that the genesis of Music Play was prior to COVID. It's done to every e-learning platform. It's kind of given like a turbo boost. But prior to COVID, our objective was efficiency, convenience, elite level instruction, and world-class customized learning experience. And so, and also, students and want to be able to learn at their own pace and learn what it is that they want to learn. So it was important for us as a platform to be able to teach people things that they actually care about, but also making those resources available for any and everyone wherever they are. So with in-person learning, you're limited to a physical location, right? So you can't really access an A-list or B-list level musician rather physically. And so part of what we wanted to do was bridge that gap, was to give the student or the enthusiast access to the musicians that they look up to the musicians that they listen to their records and try to imitate what they do. We wanted to give them an opportunity to get to know those musicians and get to actually see what they do. So those are the major aspects of why learning virtual is more efficient and more effective than in-person learning.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense, and that's good. So we'll move on to my favorite thing. Let's talk more about music. Now, you are a lifelong musician, right? You've loved music your whole life. How do you find music? And this is more of a personal question. Music during COVID. How important has music been to you? How often, and do you see artists thinking the same way about their music, that more of us are at home listening? I find myself, I'm a Spotify guy. I find myself in my Spotify more often. It takes me to my happy place when I'm stressed. I mean, music to me has always been my cure. Even when I was in the military, it kind of, you had your mission music, you had your I hear a song now, perfect example. My son, he's 13. He will play music that is, I'll age myself, from when I was in the military. And I find myself kind of laughing to what he's doing was very similar to things I was doing at the same age. Music is one of those things, to me, makes me feel good. Why books? I mean, I love reading. I read a book a week. But music to me is something I need every day. I can't go without. Like when I see somebody running without headphones on, I'm like, how do they do it? I'm like, I don't. So where do you see music in COVID? How has it played a role in your life? Obviously, you've built an amazing company off of it, but you personally, as a lifelong musician, how has music played a role for you during 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a great point that music, basically, music is a form of expression for people.
Yeah.
For me, if I'm having a long day, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm stressed out, I can always walk to the piano and kind of take it out on that instrument.
Yeah.
And with what's going on right now with COVID, this is probably the most stress that a lot of us have ever endured. And so you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with just overall stress. And oftentimes when we deal with those emotions, we either go to, whether it's alcohol or like drugs or something to kind of get our minds on what's going on. Me, music has been that I've been able to use to go to be able to express myself, whether I'm feeling sad, whether I'm feeling happy, whether I'm feeling anxious, whatever I'm feeling, I can always express myself through music. And just get those emotions out that way. I mean, even now that everyone is home, just being able to play one or two songs on the piano with the family just changes the whole dynamic of the day.
Yeah.
That's just another way for the family to come together around the instrument. Maybe someone takes turns singing, or there's just so much that music has done for me that I see it doing to some of the students who take the courses. And also, when you study music, the theory aspect of it, you learn that it's really full of patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding music theory allows you to develop your critical thinking skills. And so if you understand the theoretical aspect of music, what's learning how to solo. So when you're learning how to solo, you have to be aware of where you are harmonically, what the drummer is doing, if you're playing with the drummer, where you're trying to go, and you have to figure out a way to navigate your way through that situation and get to a safe landing. And so for me, I just translate those concepts to a real life situation. If whatever I'm dealing with, I have to be able to see where the end game is and figure out a way to successfully navigate my way through this situation and have a safe landing.
I love the way that you said that. So let me ask you this, and it just triggered my brain. I love this question only because I thought of it. I saw somebody, I don't know, on social shared it, and it was the Harlem Performing School. They were doing ballet out in front throughout New York, which was beautiful. It was, hey, sometimes classical music's beautiful. How do you see that when it comes to like jazz and classical music? How do you see the youth of today looking at that? I mean, obviously, if you're going the musical route, you have to pay respect to those who came before us, especially, you know, Mozart, those folks. I mean, they were amazing in their day and controversial in their day, but now their music is deemed as classical, which to some people, they would downplay it, right? And even I know some youth of our generation kind of look at it. But what do you see with your students that are coming on that are younger? Do they respect the fact that that's where it comes from, or do they look at it as like, it's not, you know, all this different genre of music we have? I know I'm big in the EDM scene, and my friends make comments that it sounds like, you know, robots doing various things, and rap music has changed so much. If you look at it from the days of the 80s, you know, coming up from the, you know, the Upper East Side of New York, where you had Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, and, you know, Rick Rubin out of a dorm room at NYU, you know, kind of, you know, creating Def Jam. And then you kind of look ahead. Music has changed so much. Even country music has become pop, right? I mean, everything kind of goes back. But classical music's that one steady thing that, shocking enough, always has more views or more listens on Apple and on Spotify than any other genre of music, which is crazy when you think about it. So for your students, how do they look at, and how are you guys able to teach the difference in classical music and what we have today, and how they all kind of tie in? Because it all started there and worked up, right? Because I remember growing up, we looked at the Beatles or Elvis as brought the change and even into hip hop, right? And then you watched hip hop change into, I mean, actually it was R&B, because you had all those different groups that came up back in the day, you know, even, you know, James Brown coming up that way. And then you kind of go through. So music has a progression. How are you teaching that progression for folks so they understand that everything has history involved in it?
Yeah, great question. I think the most important thing is showing how the different genres and the different eras are connected, you know, because it's really about appreciating the different genres. It's not like you have to be a virtuoso classical musician or jazz musician, but you want to be able to understand all connect. How before hip hop there was jazz, you know, so you don't have to necessarily know who all the jazz legends are, but first it's about establishing the appreciation for music, establishing the appreciation for the different genres. And then once we start there, then you're giving me something to work, right? So then we can talk, then we get into the history and the musical theory aspect and how they're connected. But for me, it's what I've learned, you know, one thing that's helped me is I've been able to just be a part of many different verticals in the music industry. I've produced music, I've arranged music, I've been the musical director of artists. I currently teach at the Berklee College of Music here in Boston. And prior to Music Play, I owned my first company, which was a live music entertainment company that provided music for corporate events and things like that. So I've had to hire and train different musicians. And so what I've learned is that even at Berklee, so the students that I teach, it comes down to them, one, just not being exposed to enough of the different genres, right? So they're just growing up just listening to one thing, but also just not having an appreciation for something else. So what I try to do, and what we try to do at UCLA is make it relevant for that student. So that's where the whole customized learning approach makes sense. We have to, whatever it is that you're teaching, whoever it is that you're teaching, you have to get them to care about what it is that you're trying to teach, or else they're just gonna do you out. Yeah. And so if I can find where they're at and I can see what they're interested in, then I just have to figure out a way to tie the two genres, to show the relevance and to show how music as a whole is very much so connected. Yeah. You know?
That makes a lot of sense. So before you go, because we're short on time here, before you go, two questions. One, what is the future of online learning? Where do you see it going? And especially, let's make sure I say this right, USIC. As long as you, I love that. I want to say music, and I know why. But what does the future of online learning look like, and how can folks learn more about Music Play out there?
Yeah, well, learn more about Music Play at musicplay.com. You can also find us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is Music Play. Same thing for Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter and YouTube. As to the future of e-learning, I think it's only going to grow. I think we're only touching the surface. And what we're doing at Music Play is we're really honing in on the whole tech aspect of music learning, whether it's with AI, focus on the customized learning, and a bunch of other things that I can't really reveal because it's not, it hasn't been really built yet. But I think COVID really showed the importance of e-learning, and whether it's e-learning or just remotely, I think the world is just going to transition more into that model. So this is just the beginning for e-learning as a whole, and this is just the beginning for Music Play as a company.
I love it. Well, Alan, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been great. I love talking. As you can tell, I geek out when it comes to talking about music, and you have an amazing platform, Music Play, folks. You go check it out. Built on YouTube, which is pretty amazing. Everybody loves the YouTube, so you're doing big things. And I won't judge you that you're in Boston, and I'm a diehard Yankee fan, so I try not to pick on anything in Boston. You guys kind of like your sports in Boston just a little bit. But I want to thank you, Alan, for joining us. We'll have to have you back on real soon. Everybody else, we'll be right back after the break. And that's our show. That's it. That's a wrap. Put a bow tie on it. Call it done. That's our Tuesday, October 20th show. Hopefully you enjoyed today's show, because we enjoyed having you here and checking it out. So Alan and Rob, thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you want to catch their standalone segments, head over to our YouTube channel and catch them under today's playlist. It's very simple. It's today's date, October 20th, Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 is on there. Go check it out. You can watch both those segments without hearing my beginning or this ending, so you're gonna miss this fine ending. I have a great show for you tomorrow. Cooper Lawrence is joining us. That is our solo guest for tomorrow. The wonderful Cooper Lawrence will be joining us. Then we have our sports show on Thursday, and Friday we bring it up. We have, of course, the wonderful, I always say wonderful, I say wonderful a lot, don't I? The wonderful Jordan Gilbert will be joining me. A co-host will be joining me with a fabulous actor joining us. So we'll be talking about how his career has done some amazing changes. Let's talk about 9 features in 1 year, and then COVID hit. But he's back to acting. He's going to share some insight on what he's doing. So it's going to be a great show for you. Great week ahead as we close out and get closer to election 2020. We're going to have more coverage and more people that will share some amazing information with you. So, as always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. On behalf of our entire team at To The Point, we want to thank you for tuning in. And as a reminder, if you or somebody you know should be a guest on our show, please feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. That's hello@tothepointtv.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, you can also send your complaints or compliments to that same email address, and we'd love to hear you. Follow us on social media and tell a friend about To The Point. So, as always, and on behalf of our entire team here at To The Point, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe. Be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point.